The Democratic Alliance in KwaZulu-Natal welcomes the news of the 2 arrests that have been made in the matter pertaining to the murder of Democratic Alliance councillor Inkosi Zuma in the Umgeni municipality. This matter has been dragging on for some years now, and hopefully this will bring some finality to both the family of Inkosi Zuma and the party itself. Justice delayed is justice denied, and we trust that the prosecuting authority now has its ducks in a row so that we can get to some conclusion and there can be accountability and consequence in what was a senseless and brutal murder of a public representative in front of his wife and small children.
We are pleased that more people have been arrested in this case. Obviously, we don't know the details of completely why they've been arrested and the evidence that has been put forward. But what has been an interesting development is that from this court case, there has been a 204 application made, which basically means that one of the accused has come forward as a state witness and has submitted information that has led to further arrest. So that is an interesting development in this case. You would have noticed that there were 4 people in the dock. There should have been 5, so it is assumed then that the 5th person is the person who's then turned state witness. Again, that's an assumption, but it makes sense in the context of this case. However, we are concerned about a few things. So firstly, the person who has turned state witness, their legal representatives were not aware that they were no longer on the case. In other words, the affidavit that was submitted to the police and the prosecutors was signed with different attorneys to those that are on record. So we've seen now the attorney on record for the accused, Mr. Buthelezi, has formally withdrawn himself as the attorney on record, and actually was quite surprised at the court case this morning. And he also learned that his client had appeared before court on Tuesday. So it makes one wonder what is actually happening in the background, whether or not this is some plot between the prosecuting authority, the police, and crime intelligence. What we are putting on the table at the moment is that, it is one thing to create a good case in front of the cameras, only for it to fall apart at the last minute because of incidents that we've seen take place today involving the different legal representatives. So what we hope and what we'll be keeping a close eye on is to make sure that there's not some plot in the background or a strategy in terms of those who are connected to this case to collapse the case at a later stage. So we will continue to use our powers to make sure that happens. But again, without creating conspiracy theories, we must appreciate that more people have been arrested. Our own intelligence as the Democratic Alliance, as you know, we appointed forensic investigators to look into this. Our own intelligence points to some of the individuals that have been arrested, which means that there's a convergence of information that is happening. Lastly then, we still are concerned that the police still refuse to meet with us and take the information that we have on hand. I think you'll hear from the family a little bit later, and you'll hear that they have not been consulted and they have not been engaged with by the police for almost 18 months now, which is very, very concerning if you take into consideration that they have information that pertains to this case that is very important. I think that's where I'll leave it for now.
I'm outside the court in Umgeni today with Mayor Chris Papas, where the 2 new accused in the murder of Inkosi Zuma faced the magistrate. They faced their charges. The case has been remanded. The 2 suspects, one a senior Inkosi from the district, Zuma, who's involved in a second murder case, appeared before the magistrate. Our biggest concern is we had appointed a forensic private investigation team who had already determined who was behind this and the motives behind it. We had tried continuously to engage with SAPS, and it appears that there is something more sinister, and perhaps there's something more sinister when it comes to the security and the intelligence in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, particularly amongst traditional leaders and amongst politicians. But we welcome the arrests. We trust that the prosecuting authority will now have its evidence ready to be able to prosecute, so we can get closure for the family of Inkosi Zuma and also for the Democratic Alliance.